All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Grizzly's Cave. This is Grizzly Andrew. I hope you all are doing well. Um, so before I start this next episode, I did promise a friend of mine from the NAWE promotion, and if you listen to episode 3, he is the man I refer to as Ben or Diablo. He was an individual that I had the chance to meet back in 2013 when we were filming a movie called The Caretakers for Big Biting Pig Productions. And Ben is actually a trainer. He's actually the head trainer for the NAWE promotion that I'm a part of. And he had mentioned last month about wanting to have a permanent training facility to where we can train more than just the days of the shows, as well as, a Saturday or Sunday here or there, because I want to throw this out there. Where we do the training at right now, it's at the NEWE Community Center where NAWE has their wrestling events. So he had, at yesterday's training session, he handed out some flyers, and he knew I had started a podcast, and he had asked if I would plug this for him. So I told him, I said I'd be more than happy to. And I'll plug this now, and I'll plug this at the end of the episode. All right. So there is a GoFundMe account, and it is called Help Ben Build a Future for Indie Wrestling Stars. Basically, the goal is to have a permanent training facility with a ring, etc. And this is definitely a good cause, because the wrestlers that you see nowadays, for whether it's WWE, AEW, Impact, they all had to start somewhere, and they always had to start with the independent promotions. So the link for this GoFundMe account, it is gofund.me/9B as in boy, 2 F as in Frank, C as in Charles, 903. Any donations would greatly be appreciated. And I really hope that this plug will get it out even more. And folks, I mean, some of you listeners, wrestling may not be important to you, but for me, the trainees, anybody else that's in this business, it's very important to us, and we definitely need to keep independent wrestling alive. So any donations would greatly be accepted. Also, I want to plug again the next NAWE wrestling event. It is March the 8th at the NEWE Community Center in NEWE, Kentucky. It'll start at 7 p.m. Ticket prices are $8. There are concessions, and as I stated in previous episodes, it is not. They're not overly priced like you would get if you were at sporting events, like for NBA, MLB, etc. Ticket prices are relatively cheap, and I mean, NAWE is a great promotion to work for. It's family friendly, and I can guarantee you will have a good time. I will be there. I will be there commentating, and there are about 5, maybe 6 matches. I'm not quite sure, because as with any promotion, cards are subject to change. So, but I can guarantee you will definitely enjoy your time if you are able to make it out. We, myself and everybody affiliated with the promotion, we would greatly appreciate it if you could come out. All right, so I've actually been working on a recording for the Janelle Grant case, the lawsuit against Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and WWE. I actually had to take a pause from making that. I was basically reading the legal documents, and I knew of some of the things, but I didn't realize how well when I started reading the details. I mean, it just really shocked me. Um, and again, those are just allegations, but I digress. But at the start of that episode, I had put this out there, going back to episode 2 about FMW. There were some errors in some of the information that I had presented, so I would like to correct those errors before I begin this current episode. So I had stated back when Atsushi Onita had went overseas for his excursion, I had mentioned that his first stop was Puerto Rico, where he was rat pack slash beat up because he didn't want to lose 2 straight falls in a 2 out of 3 falls match against somebody that he deemed inferior. Well, I was actually incorrect on that, and I had also stated that it possibly could have been with the WWC promotion that was run by Carlos Colon. So I said it was possible that was it, but I wasn't for certain. So come to find out, it was for a promotion in the Dominican Republic. So I would like to apologize for that mistake. The next mistake was when I was talking about the barbed wire matches that he had. I had said they were electrified. That I mistakenly said that it was supposed to have been exploding barbed wire. So again, I do apologize for those mistakes. I'm human. I'm not perfect. When I do these episodes, I do the best that I can. So again, to my listeners, I would like to apologize to that. All right. So today's episode is probably not going to be a long one. It may go 30 minutes. We'll just see what happens. So, I've stated my passion for professional wrestling, how I've been a fan of it for a very long time. I've watched obviously a lot of it on TV. I have had the opportunity to go to a few events in person. Let's see, but I will tell you about my first event. So we're gonna travel back in time to July of 1995. So just to give you a little bit of backstory, me and my mother, at this time, my parents had been divorced for about 2 years. Me and my mother were living in Princeton, Kentucky, which it's about 10, 15 minutes from where I currently live at, which is Eddyville, Kentucky. And during the summer, when school was out, I would stay at a place. It was called the School Aged Child Care, and the initials were SACC. It was located over at the Caldwell County Primary School. Now, they always had it for, even when school was in session, you could go there before classes start, and you could also go there after school. If you were already in the primary school, you could just walk down there. If you went to the elementary school, then obviously you took the bus. Which elementary school was like at the top of the hill, and it would just drive you down the hill to the primary school, and then you could stay there, and it would no later than 6 o'clock. Well, so during the summer, that's where I went to every day, Monday through Friday. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, we did have a lot of fun there. We get to go outside, play on the playground equipment, that they have outside, like for recess and all that during lunch. But when we were there during the summer, we got to go out quite a bit. We also got to play kickball a lot in the gym. It was very active, is what I'm saying. Because back then we didn't have social media, we didn't have the cell phones, we didn't have this, that, and the other. So, I mean, it was basically go outside and play or sit inside and watch TV. Well, we didn't have that luxury of getting to watch TV much because there was actually no cable set up at the primary school. So if we watched anything on the screen, it was, it would be basically movies or whatnot. And when I say TVs, I'm not talking about the flat screen TVs we have now. My God, would it have been great to have had flat screen TVs back then? No, we're talking those big bulky TVs that, if you carried it, it was heavy, or it would be those TVs that it would require two or more people to help you carry. But anyways, definitely did have some good times over there. Well, so um, I remember my mother picking me up, and she had said, "We got to go." And I said, "Okay." And I got in the car, and at the time she drove let's see, it was a Chrysler. I want to say it was a Plymouth, and it was a 80s model. It was navy blue. Her and my dad had gotten that car during their marriage. I don't remember when she got it, but I want to say it might have been late 80s, maybe early 90s. And it was a nice car. So we get in the car and we're driving, and we're going to Evansville, Indiana. To get to Evansville from Princeton, it is a long drive. I would say, because let's see, from Princeton to Madisonville, and this is taking the WK Parkway and the Pennyroyal Parkway, it takes about 45 minutes. And then to get to Madisonville to Henderson via the Pennyroyal Parkway, about another 45. So there's an hour and a half. And I really do not remember how long it took to get from Henderson to Robert Stadium, which is where this event was held at. Probably 20 or 30 minutes, but it was a long drive. Well, it was for the WWF at the time. And it was going to going to a show and seeing it in person. It is so much more different than watching it on TV. And it was an awesome experience. Obviously, I don't know how many people were there. I just remember it was packed. I remember at one point a spotlight had shone, and you could see Vince McMahon and Jerry the King Lawler. And at this time, I'm 9 years old, and obviously, I'm an excited little kid. I get up and I'm just waiting, which I'm a long ways away from them, and they can't see me. No pun intended to John Cena with that phrase right there. But I'm standing there and I'm waving and waving and all that because I'm excited. I mean, this is just awesome, and I'm not really sure what the ticket prices were, but I don't come from money. I come from humble beginnings, and as I stated in a previous episode, I grew up in a blue collar family, and I don't know how my mom managed to get the money for these tickets, but I would say she probably saved up for a while. And you know what? My mom, her name is Sandra. Well, most people call her Sandra, but it's actually Sandra. But she did that for me, and she didn't have to. And the fact that she did that for me, that meant the world to me. So anyways, and we weren't ringside, but we weren't in the nosebleed section either. And I can't remember all of the matches. I'm just going to shoot straight with you. But I think the event that we had, or the event that we went to, I believe it was actually a double, what they call a double shot taping for the WWF Superstars show that they had. And the reason I say that is there was one match between Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. He took on Skip, who was managed by Sonny. For those of you who don't know who Skip is, I'm sure you've heard of the name the late Chris Candido. And Sonny was Tammy Sitch. The only reason I'm thinking this was for Superstars is because I remember seeing the exact similar match a few weeks later when an episode of Superstars had aired. So I'm thinking that's what that was for. And plus the entrance setup that they had for the live event is the same entrance setup that they used for Superstars when you would see episodes come on TV. But another thing in that match, well, actually after the match, after Sean won the match, there was a spot where Sean acted like he was going to kiss Sunny, and then he dissed her, and then he went back and kissed her over and over and over again. For those of you that don't know, Skip and Sunny were actually a couple in real life behind the scenes. And I don't know a whole lot about Chris Candido, other than just what I've heard from people like Jim Cornette, Lance Storm. Chris was a very good wrestler, even when he was in Smoky Mountain Wrestling for Jim Cornette before he went to the WWF. Sonny was there too as his manager or valet, whichever word you want to use. And I've seen some of Chris's matches, and they were incredible. I just felt like he really got a bad break, and I really feel bad for him now that I'm 39 years old, now knowing that, actually I knew this even before then, I knew this years before, but as an adult, finding out, that they were a real life couple and everything, and the fact that that occurred, if me personally, I would have told McMahon or whoever booked the match, hell no, he's not kissing my girlfriend. That's not happening. But unfortunately, it did happen, and sad to say, which Shawn Michaels is not the same today as he was 30 years ago. He's a much more humble man. He's a godly Christian man, to my understanding. But back then, he was a complete 180. Well, anyways, apparently Sean and Sonny had a fling affair, whatever you want to call it, at that time frame. But whether it was happening during that time in July of '95 when I went, I can't say. I can't say for certain. I really don't know when it started. But anyways, that was one match I remember. The opening match was a tag team match. It was the Allied Powers, which consisted of Lex Luger and the late British Bulldog. They took on the team of Yokozuna and the late Yokozuna and the late Owen Hart. And they were accompanied by the late Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette. And it was a good match, good opener. It was rather ironic that a month or so later, Lex Luger left the company and went back to WCW. And it's crazy to think that, I went to one live event seeing the British Bulldog as a good guy, or babyface as it's called in the business. And then he becomes a heel the next month. But just seeing that match, it was it was incredible. There was another match. It had Razor Ramon, who is the late Scott Hall, and the 1-2-3 Kid. Which, if my listeners who watch the product today, back during the Attitude Era, he was known. 1-2-3 Kid was known as X-Pac. In WCW, he was known as Six, because he was the sixth member of the NWO whenever the NWO had started back in 1996. They took on, I believe it was King Mabel, who is the late Nelson Frazier, and his partner Sir Mo. Now, King Mabel, he became king because he won the 1995 King of the Ring tournament just a month prior to this event. And Mo, being his tag team partner, they were a tag team called Men on a Mission. And if you are not familiar with Men on a Mission, look them up on YouTube. There's plenty of material or plenty of videos with matches to watch. Well, here's the crazy thing. So, with certain heel quote unquote king gimmicks, they would sit on a throne on a platform, and there would be these rails where wrestlers would carry on their shoulders as they walk to the ring. I know Haku did it when he was King Haku. The late Randy Savage when he was, oh yeah, Macho King Randy Savage. They would do that, which that was like around the 89 to 91 time frame. Well, for those of you that don't know about King Mabel was not, a 230 to 275 pound wrestler. This man weighed in excess. He was billed at over 500 pounds, and he was about between 6'8" and 6'10". He was a big feller. And if my memory serves me right, it would take maybe 4 people to carry other wrestlers. This one took at least 6 people to carry him. And generally the people that carried him were your enhancement talent or jobbers, as some wrestlers refer to them as. And all I got to say is thank God they didn't have a long walk to the ring. And also thank God it was a level entranceway, not like the ramp that we saw on Monday Night Raw during the Attitude Era and whatnot. I remember King Mabel. When he'd come to the ring, he'd demand all the people to shut up, and he got a lot of heat from the fans on that. Which, with him being a bad guy, that's what you want to do. And it's ironic because later that night, Mabel wrestled a second match. This time against the late Razor Ramon, and my mom, for some reason, had a big crush on him. She was just crazy about him. And so there towards the end of the match, Razor Ramon, he signals to the fans he's going to go for his finishing move, which was called the Razor's Edge. And when he went to WCW and wrestled as Scott Hall, it was called the Outsider's Edge, which takes a lot of strength to pick someone up. And then you have to hoist them up even further in the air by extending your arms. And I actually just recently saw a match where Razor Ramon took on Crush, who was the late Brian Adams. And Crush was over 300 pounds. And Scott Hall at this time was about 280, between 280 and 290. He was about 6'6", 6'7". So, I mean, he was already a tall fellow, and he's, pretty big guy as well. And Crush was no slouch either. He was about 6'6", 6'7", about 310, 320. And he picked up Crush and just hoisted him up like it was nothing. And I was really impressed. However, long story short, he did not get the Razor's Edge on King Mabel. King Mabel actually back body dropped him. And then he performed a big leg drop on Razor. And then my mom just started giggling and laughing and all that. And then King Mabel got the 3 count, and then his music started playing, and my mom looked at me and said, "He lost?" And I said, yeah, Mom, he did. And let's see. I also got a chance to see Rikishi, the father of the Uso brothers. At that time, he had it was a kind of a hip-hop gimmick, and he took on the late Louis Piccoli, who was performing as Rad Radford. Those are the only matches I can really think of before I get to the final 2. So the final 2 matches, it was actually And I'm thinking they were dark matches because the match I'm about to mention, I actually saw it on YouTube, but there's no commentary. Usually for matches like that, and they have matches like that on YouTube where there's no commentary for, that was back during the golden era. And so I'm thinking they were dark matches. But this first match, it was a 6-man elimination match, similar to the Survivor Series, but instead of 4-on-4 or 5-on-5, it was just 3-on-3. It was members of the $1 Million Corporation. It consisted of Psycho Sid, who is the late Sid Udy, Tatanka, and Kama. And for those of you who may not know who Kama is, you may remember the character of The Godfather. And if you want to go back to the golden era, you can you may remember Papa Shango, the voodoo gimmick. So their opponents were Shawn Michaels, Diesel, who was, if you don't know who that was Kevin Nash. And then their final partner, not final partner, the third man on the team was my favorite, The Undertaker, managed by Paul Bearer. Here's the irony. So before that match had started, me and my mom, I had to go to the bathroom, and she had to go to the bathroom as well. Well, afterwards, we stopped by one of the merch tables, and I bought, excuse me, I bought an urn, which it was a foam urn, and it had RIP on there. And then I saw they had glasses for Diesel. It said Big Daddy Cool and on one side, and I believe it said Diesel Power on the other side. So we got those, and as we're walking back down these steps to get back to our seats, the lights are out, and this is during the Undertaker's entrance, and you see the purple hue and all. And my mom is telling me how scared she is and everything and freaked out. And, it was a very breathtaking experience just seeing him walk to the ring. And, I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. So anyways, during the match, Tatanka is first eliminated due to Diesel's jackknife powerbomb. At this time, Diesel had been in a feud with Sid dating back to around April. It was April of '95. And a month prior, started April '95. And then May of '95, at the very first In Your House pay-per-view, they had a singles match for the WWE Championship. Well, then a month later, at the King of the Ring, they were in a tag match. It was Diesel and the late Bam Bam Bigelow against Psycho Sid and Tatanka. Well, they were starting the storyline where Sid was afraid of Diesel. So they incorporated that into this 6-man elimination tag match. Anytime Sid was in the ring and Diesel came in, Sid would tag out because he didn't want to. Obviously, he was feigning fear of Diesel. Well, Diesel is actually the first eliminated on his team. And I don't remember if it was a countout or a disqualification. But anyways, he gets eliminated. And then at some point during the match, The Undertaker and Kama are eliminated via a double countout. So to give you a little bit of history on those two. So there is a match between those two when Kama was known as Papa Shango against The Undertaker during the Gravedigger portion of The Undertaker's career. Go check it out if you haven't. But anyways, Kama and Undertaker, they're counted out. Their storyline, it started back in August of '94 because Undertaker had this storyline with Ted DiBiase because Ted DiBiase had brought in a fake Undertaker, as the fans call it, Underfaker. And this Undertaker was played by, he was known in Smoky Mountain Wrestling as Primetime Brian Lee. Brian Lee also performed in WWF later with the Disciples of Apocalypse faction known as Chains. But they had a match. It was Undertaker versus Undertaker at SummerSlam 94. Well, 3 months later, at the 94 Survivor Series, Taker had a match with Yokozuna in their second casket match. And during that match, Mike Rotunda, who is the father of the late Bray Wyatt, he interfered during that casket match and attacked Undertaker and almost cost him the match. Well, Undertaker and IRS have their match at the Royal Rumble 95. And then after that match, it starts a feud with King Kong Bundy. And all these guys that I'm listing were all part of the $1 Million Corporation. So that leads to the WrestleMania 11 match between Taker and Bundy. Well, at some point before that Mania match, Ted DiBiase had gotten in possession of the urn that Paul Bearer was known for carrying to the ring. Well, during the match, Undertaker, which I'm sure if you've watched his matches, when he goes over the top rope, he always lands on his feet. Well, there was a spot where he went over the top rope on his own volition, landed on his feet, grabbed the urn from Ted DiBiase, got it back to Paul Bearer. Well, within minutes, Kama runs to the ring, attacks Paul Bearer, steals the urn, and he says he's going to melt it into a necklace, in which he did. He did sport this really big gold chain. I mean, it was about the size of all the gold chains that you would see Mr. T wearing back in the 80s. So anyways, they're in a feud. So this is just to help further their storyline angle, which it eventually culminated at the following month at the SummerSlam SummerSlam pay-per-view, and it wound up going to where Undertaker won that casket match. But anyways, I digress. So the final two participants in the match are Shawn Michaels and Psycho Sid. And if you are not aware of this, when Sid came back to the WWF for the second time, he was brought in as Shawn's new bodyguard because Diesel was Shawn's original bodyguard. Well, at the WrestleMania 11 pay-per-view, Shawn Michaels challenged Diesel for the WWF Championship. So this was I think this was April of '95. If it wasn't April, it was definitely March. Well, I don't remember if it was the next night on Raw or if it was the following Raw. But Sid attacked Shawn Michaels, and that ended their relationship, so to speak. So that, getting back to that elimination tag team match, it ended with those two where, as a 9-year-old kid, I'm like, oh no, Shawn's going to get beat. You know, Sid's going to win this match, etc. Well, right at the very end, Sid Irish whips Shawn into the ropes. He ducks down, and Shawn hits him with sweet chin music. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a super kick. But Shawn really perfected that kick, and he got the 3 count and won the match. So it was pretty awesome. The final match of that night was a steel cage match, and it was the old school blue, real big blue steel cage. And it was between Bret Hart and Hakushi. So if you don't know who Hakushi is, if to any of the listeners that happen to be a fan of wrestlers from Japan. It's Jinsei Shinsaki. If I butchered that name, I apologize. But they were in a storyline feud during the summer. And Hakushi was really, really great worker, great athlete. And Bret Hart, I mean, as I mentioned in my previous episode with Brooks, he, I mentioned about Kurt Angle being in my top 10 of best technical wrestlers. Bret Hart would be in there too. It was a good match. But these steel cage matches were a little different. Used to, if we're going back to old school wrestling days, steel cage matches were to keep people in. Well, these steel cage matches back at that time with WWF, you had to escape, whether it was either climb over or escape through the door. Well, the ending of the match, Bret Hart escaped the cage and he won. And then that was the last match of the night, and it was time to go home. It took forever to get out of Evansville. It was a long drive home. I was tired. I know I wound up falling asleep on the way home. But yeah, man, I swear it was an incredible experience. And if you have never had the luxury of going to whether it's a live event, whether it's a house show, whether it's pay-per-view, whether it's a TV taping, I hope that you're able to eventually go to one of them events, because it's an amazing experience. I do recommend, if you do go, make sure you have plenty of money on you, because stuff is expensive nowadays. But anyways, that was my first ever live event experience, and I hope you all enjoyed it. It may not come off across as that exciting to you all, but it was very much exciting to me. And before I go, I do want to plug the NAWE event again that's coming up March the 8th at the NEWE Community Center in NEWE, Kentucky. The show starts at 7 p.m. Doors will open between 6 and 6:30. Concessions are available. Ticket prices are $8 per person. It is a family-friendly promotion. So I hope you all can come out, and you'll be thoroughly impressed with these guys. I know I've been impressed since I first went to a promotional event there back in June of last year, just as a fan. I mean, I was very impressed, and now I'm a part of the NAWE team as a commentator. So if you can make it out, please come out. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, I want to give a final plug for this episode, or give a final plug on this episode to my friend Ben. He has a GoFundMe account. It says, "Help Ben build a future for indie wrestling stars." And again, this is to help build a future wrestling training facility for not only the trainees that we have now in the NAWE promotion, but for people that want to get into the business in the future. And I know I'm 39 years old. God knows I'm not a spring chicken. And God knows my body does not recover like it used to when I was younger. This is a young man's sport when you get into it. However, if you have a dream, if you have a passion, if you have a desire, no matter what your age is, to get into the business, go out there and try, because you definitely don't want to live your life wondering, what if? If you want to get into this wrestling business, if you want to train to be a wrestler, whether you're 18 or, in my case, 39, go out there and try. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It's just the way things go. But you can safely say that you tried, that you gave it your best, and then you can look back with no regrets. I do have some upcoming episodes. I should have, let's see, probably in the next day or so, I will have a show with another one of the trainees. And then hopefully the following day, I will have a guest who is actually a wrestler with the NAWE promotion. He's also one of the co-founders of the promotion. And he's actually one of the guys that helped me get my break in the business. So stay tuned for that. This episode, I will have it uploaded onto Spotify and all the other platforms here shortly. If you listen to this episode, I greatly appreciate you listening to it. And again, I'm not a professional podcaster by any means. I mean, right now, this is a hobby. I would love for this to become something bigger if possible. But this is just something I'm very passionate about. And if you took time out of your day or night to listen to it, I greatly appreciate that, and I appreciate your support. Until then, this is Grizzly Andrew from Grizzly's Cave signing off. You all take care, and God bless.